This video is about pattern design using elements of noise or randomness. These patterns appear as sparkling or radiant when run on your HackerLights controller. These are fairly easy patterns to create for two reasons. One, because they're not specific to any particular shape or arrangement of LEDs. They work for any light design. They can be overlaid over existing shaped designs to add interest and motion. And second, because we're not designing the pattern pixel by pixel, but letting Photoshop do the heavy lifting for us. Now we're going to go through a series of 5 increasingly complex patterns, and at the end we'll demonstrate all of them. We're going to start by creating a new file in Photoshop. This is a 32 pixel wide by 100 pixel tall image. First thing we need to do is make the background black. So we're going to select our paint fill tool, select black, and then paint the entire image black. Next we're going to go to filters and do the noise filter. We pick Gaussian noise, and then we're going to change the amount slider to get the amount that we want. This is it for the first image. We're going to save this as a PNG file. At the end of this video, we're going to load all 5 images into the controller and then run it and see what it looks like. But for now, on to the second file. This is going to be pretty similar to the first one, except it's going to have a color to it. It's going to be gold with white sparkles instead of black and white. So we're going to do a very similar thing, except we're going to start by painting the entire canvas gold. Then, just like before, we're going to go to filter, we're going to go to noise and pick add noise. Then we're going to adjust our noise parameters until we get a look that we like. In this case, noise has made a lot of the image pretty dark, so we want to reduce the strength of it a little bit. Give it a little bit more of a monochromatic feel. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to save this as our second image. This is a PNG file. Now on to the third image. What we're going to do here is refine our noise effect a little bit. In the first 2 images, the noise was on all the time. There's a lot of activity and a lot of motion. What we want to do here is tone that down a little bit, so that when there is a speck of light, it's brilliant, it really stands out. We're going to start off like we did before. We're going to make a black image, and we're going to add the noise filter. A little mistake here. What I did was set up a second layer to put the noise on, because I want to have the noise effect separate from the background so I can move it around later. But then after I made the second layer, I didn't paint anything into it, so the second layer was empty, didn't have any contents, and so Photoshop was complaining that it can't add noise to nothing. So I fixed that by painting the second layer black. Now we're in the noise filter just like before. Now here's where it's different. We're going to go to our brightness curve. And this is going to let us filter it so we can take all those dark gray pixels and then turn them off completely. And then take the ones that are left, the brighter ones, and then turn them all the way up to white. So we don't have many pixels left on anymore, but the ones that are on are bright. And because of the new balance with mostly black and a few white pixels, the white ones are really going to pop out. So we're going to save this as a third image. The fourth one's going to be a variation on this. It's going to be a little bit subtle, but what we're going to do is change the way these flashes happen. It's not just black and then white for a pixel and then back to black again. It's going to be black and then white, then it's going to fade out a little bit over time to make the effect a little bit softer. So what we want to do is use this pixel pattern, this pattern of white pixels as our template. And what we mean by fade out is that for each successive frame in time, that is each line below the current line, we want the pixel to still be there, but a little bit dimmer than before. And then after 5 or 6 frames in time, we want the pixel to have faded out completely. So what we're going to do is copy this entire layer 5 times. And we're going to move each layer down 1 pixel more than the last one. And then what we're going to do is adjust the opacity of each layer to make them fade out more and more and more. I know that's a little bit confusing, but once you see the picture that's coming up now, I think it'll make sense. What I'm doing now is selecting the mixing mode for each layer, and I'm picking screen instead of the default. Screen's a good way in Photoshop to mix light together. That's it for pattern number 4. We're going to save this as a PNG file and then move on to the last pattern. For pattern number 5, what we want to do is take this noise design we've been working on, show how to layer it on top of other designs. So the idea is that this doesn't have to be a standalone pattern, but the noise can be an effect that you add to some other pattern that's being designed. So we're going to keep this, these fading out noise particles from pattern 4 around. Then we're going to create a new pattern. In this case, just be two different colors alternating to each other. Then we're going to paste the noise on top of that. Here's my new pattern, which is white right now. So let me start painting the 2 different colors in. I think I'm going to use red and green. So I've just painted the entire image red. Now I'm going to select green. Then I'm going to use the marquee select tool to pick out just the half of the image that I want to paint green. I'm going to drop down a guide too so I can use the rulers and figure out where the midpoint of the image is. Right, there's my marquee selection so that whatever drawing I do will be limited to that area. Then I'm just going to select the big brush and paint everything in. That's our background layer. Now I'm going to go back to the last pattern, pattern number 4, and select all the layers that contain my specular points. I'm going to copy them and copy them to the new image. And now if you look at the layers on the right side of the screen, you can see a red and green area on the bottom, but then it's been covered up by these 5 layers. But really that all has to do with mixing. Once we switch them all to the screen mixing that I mentioned before, then it looks right. The way screen mixing works is it just adds light to each other, but it doesn't add darkness. So the black areas of these specular images, even though it's on top of the red and green image, it only adds light. And since black is dark, it doesn't add black to anything. Black just goes away, and only the lighter parts get added. The final thing we're going to do here is color these specular highlights to match what they're going on top of. I've flattened all the specular layers down to 1 layer, and now what I've done is select the top half of it. I'm using the hue saturation tool to color it a yellowish orange color. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom half. Select it, hue saturation, pick colorize. Then I'm going to make this sort of a blue color. It's just to show different variations and variety that can be added. Alright, if I can decide on a color, that's going to be it for the 5th image. So we're going to save that now. Then we're going to be done with the design phase entirely. So what we're going to do next is shift over to the HackerLights Studio website and upload all the stuff. Okay, so I'm logging into HackerLights. I'm going to select my project, the octocopter with 32 pixels. Still got the patterns from the previous video loaded on it, and that's okay. We're just going to add a bunch more patterns. So we're going to click edit next to an empty pattern, and then click edit again. Then we're going to pick our file. And then we're going to give it a title. Then you hit upload. And that's really all we're doing here. We're going to go through this 5 different times. Click on edit next to an empty slot. I guess I'm going to look at the pattern first. There's pattern number 1 running. Okay, click Edit next to an empty slot, then click Edit Pattern, and then choose File, and then pick the file. And then we're going to give it a title and upload it. I'm going to run through the remaining 3 pretty quickly. This should be the last one. So after this is uploaded, we go back to the simulator for the project, and we should see all of our patterns there. Here's our first file, second file, third file, fourth file, and our fifth file. All that's left to do now is download our LED file and then put it on the HackerLights controller. As you can tell here, I didn't completely plan out this section of the video, and everything I'm doing is off screen now. But all I'm doing is taking the SD card out of the HackerLights controller, putting it into my computer, and then dragging this data file onto the SD card. Then I'm putting the card back into the HackerLights controller. Plug in power, and here's the result. We've got our old patterns running first. Let's get past those. And here's the first new pattern. This is the most simple noise pattern. And the second one is where we add a gold background. The third one is where you filter the noise down to have just fewer but more brilliant highlights. And then the fourth one was where you add a little fade out after each light. And the fifth one is where you layer that on top of the alternating red and green background. Alright, that's it for this video. Hope you liked it. Let me know what you think.